we honor, remember, and appreciate the brave men and women of our nation who have made the ultimate sacrifice of serving in our country's armed forces. These servicemen and women have fought to protect your freedom to vote, speak, dream, and to enjoy life. Without these people, our freedoms would not exist. Today, we recognize all who have served, past, present, and even future. We have over 100 local veterans that we honor today in our program. Today, we will hear from 2 veterans who are both warriors as well. I now invite you to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led today by our preschool students. Please remain standing for the singing of the national anthem. Today's national anthem is sung by the Wes-Del choir.
You may be seated. On the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, the fighting of World War I ended in 1918. Due to the conclusion of the Wes-Del Wars, November 11th became a universally recognized day of celebration. The day was originally declared Armistice Day 8 years after the end of the World War I, and honored only veterans who served in the First World War. Then in 1954, after the Second World War and the Korean War, it was renamed Veterans Day to honor all veterans who served America in war and defended democracy. Today, we honor all our veterans who unselfishly placed their life on the line for our right to live free in the United States. Men and women who were ordinary people until they heard the call of duty and answered it. They left their families, their homes, and their lives, not for recognition or fame or even the honor we bestow upon them today. They fought to protect our country and to maintain our way of life.
One nation
Attention. Today we will present Daniela Devers, who was part of the 248 Air Traffic Control Squadron in the Mississippi Air National Guard from 2007 to 2012. After leaving the military, Mrs. Devers moved to Indiana in 2004 and married her husband Jeff Devers in 2015. They have two sons who are third-generation Wes-Del warriors. Jax is 8, who was in the third grade class, and Jude was 6, and in the first grade class in Mrs. Nickens' class. Mrs. Devers is a registered nurse, but turned instructional assistant after COVID lockdown proved to be a big struggle for students to bounce back from. Please give a warm welcome to Staff Sergeant Daniela Devers.
I first wanted to say thank you all for coming out and honor our veterans. But first I want to say, can we give another round of applause to our choir? We have come a long way since I started last year, so we're very proud of them. When Miss Nealon first asked me if I wanted to speak today, I was shocked, to say the least. I can think of so many people who are more qualified than I am to come up here and talk about what it means to be a veteran, and many of them are sitting out here today. My 4 years in the Air National Guard seem very insignificant compared to what some of these men and women have done. I spent the first 15 minutes that I got back to my classroom trying to think of a nice way to tell them, no thanks, I changed my mind, I do not want to do this. And then I thought about what I would say if one of my middle schoolers were talking to themselves about their own accomplishments being insignificant and like they didn't happen. And I was sitting over here talking to Sergeant Terrell, and he kind of said the same thing. Like, we both feel like we're really young, we haven't done a whole lot, there's so many people more qualified. But we are still important pieces of that puzzle. So I'm going to give you a small glimpse into my experience in the Mississippi Air National Guard. My junior year of high school was probably one of the most traumatic years of my life. By the time summer break came around, I knew that I needed to do something different, or I was going to end up in a not very good place. After a lot of prayer and consulting my parents, I decided I wanted to join the military. Back in 2007, when I joined the Air National Guard, there was something called student flight. You could enter into student flight at 17 years, 6 months old, and do drill weekend every month until you graduated from high school. I turned 17 and a half on August 17, 2007, and on August 18th, I left for my MEPS, which is the physical and moral qualifications, as well as the time that you can take the ASVAB if you haven't already. The high school that I went to gave that to all juniors, so I had already taken that. So I did all the things, I jumped through all the hoops, I talked to all the people, and swore into the Mississippi Air National Guard. And 3 days later, I started my senior year of high school. I spent the next year going to base 1 week in the month, learning everything that I could about being an air traffic controller. Being part of the 248 Air Traffic Control Squadron was such an amazing experience and opportunity. It was the first time I had really been forced to interact on that level with people outside of my own age group. Going from heavy trouble cheerleader to serious air traffic controller was a curve I was not fully prepared for. On June 6, 2008, I left for basic training. 9 weeks of of the most challenging expectations I have ever faced. And in case you didn't know, San Antonio is really hot in June and July. When I left there, I had a week off, and then I went to AIT school at Keesler Air Force Base in Biloxi, Mississippi, to learn all the things I could about air traffic control. I met some amazing people and learned some amazing things. After 4 years, I decided not to re-enlist, and I made the move to Indiana. I would tell anyone who is even remotely considering joining the military to look further into it. It's not all guns and bombs like what you see on TV. It's doctors and nurses and secretaries and security and pilots and air traffic controllers and mechanics and cooks and so much more. While I didn't participate in any actual combat or jump out of any planes like Sergeant Terrell, I helped guide those combat pilots to safely land their aircrafts. I didn't stitch up any wounded soldiers, but I guided the supply planes to where they needed to be. Throughout my life, I've done several things. I joined the military, then I moved to Indiana to start over, then I got a nursing degree, and now I'm helping middle school teachers with their students to make sure that they get the help that they need and deserve. I feel like I've always been searching for that one big way to really impact the world, but what I failed to realize is even the small impacts add up over time. So with that, I will leave you with this. I've always felt unworthy when people thanked me for my service. Until recently, I never really felt like I served. What is 4 years compared to the 30 or 40 other people give? What is a cozy, safe radar building compared to the front lines? And the answer is, it is a truly important piece of that puzzle. This building that we are in right now is made up of heavy steel, strong wood, and so many other large and powerful pieces. But none of that would stand without the small nuts and bolts. And today I am extremely proud to be one of those bolts. Thank you.
2019 graduate, Sergeant Brayden Terrell, served in the United States Army for 3 years and 8 months. He spent the past 2 years and 11 months stationed in Grafenborn, Germany. Sergeant Terrell was also airborne, with 27 total jumps out of a high-performance airplane. He has jumped into Romania, Bulgaria, Hungary, Georgia, Poland, the Czech Republic, Italy, Bosnia, and Slovenia. Sergeant Terrell also became an Army jump master and performed 8 of his jumps, being 100% responsible for hundreds of paratroopers' lives. Sergeant Terrell was honorably discharged from active duty in late October of this year and returned back to Indiana just a few short weeks ago. Brayden now plans to study social work at Ball State University with future endeavors to become a caseworker for kids inside the foster care system. We would like to welcome back to Warrior Nation, Sergeant Brayden Terrell.
I just want to say 3 things before I start my speech. 1, thank you for Wes-Del, Mr. Purdue, Miss Stanley for coordinating and letting me come back and speak. 2, I'm really nervous and I was not professional like Mrs. Devers and had a speech ready, so I'm kind of winging it, so just bear with me. And 3, this is the most important part before I get started. To all the veterans out there that have had to deploy into the combat zone, have your guys' CIBs, your combat action badges. I think Marines is combat action villains. Thank you. To be able to decipher and disseminate the difference between those who serve and have never deployed and those who have served and have to go through those situations. Thank you so much. You guys have served more than I ever have and ever will. So thank you. So I will talk about a little. So the first thing I'll say is what I've done in the military and then how it's impacted me, and that will pretty much be it. So I graduated from Wes-Del High School in 2019, and this will kind of get into how it's impacted me, but I was on a really bad road. I was indulging and developing in all the wrong things, and I was a stereotypical party teenager that probably did not have his priorities aligned. And the military made me grow up and really realize what was important. So I went to basic training. I graduated high school, and in the first 30 days I was shipped off basic training and in Fort Benning, Georgia, which was extremely hot as well, as Mr. Giver said, Sam Houston was. So midway through basic training, I got an airborne slot to go and jump out of perfectly good airplanes, and I took it. And during my time, I got stationed in Germany as soon as I passed basic, passed AIT, and it was really cool being with you overseas. I promoted to sergeant when I was only 20. Yeah, just talk a little bit out, my bad. I promoted to sergeant when I was 20, and having the chance to coach, develop, mentor, and lead soldiers that were older than me or had different backgrounds was probably the most humbling thing in the world, and it really made me have to be responsible for everyone. My time in the Army, I served this might be cool to you guys, but my roles was I was a dismounted team leader, I was a Mark 19 automatic grenade launcher gunner, and then I was also a U.S. Army jump master, which was really cool. That was the most humbling experience ever coming back. Like mentioned in the paragraph, I had 27 total jumps out of high performance X-Wing aircrafts, which is either a C-130 or C-17, which was jumping out of an airplane. If you guys ever skydive, it's really fun, and you guys should definitely do it. Now, talking about how it's impacted me and why people should think about joining the military, as I previously stated, I was on a bad road, and the military made me grow up and really prioritize what was important, and the camaraderie and the brotherhood, and having to come to the level of responsibility to, like I said, coach and develop soldiers, because hypothetically we're all able to deploy at any time, and making sure your soldiers under you are ready to deploy and combat ready, that is a very, very big task for a 20, 21-year-old. So I encourage anyone that's out there right now that's thinking about joining the military, whether that be the Air Force, the Marines, the Navy, the Army, any National Guard or Reserve unit. I'm not trying to be a recruiter, but I think you guys should definitely do it. It was the best 3.5, almost 4 years of my life. You know, and being able to, this is just a side note, but if you serve 36 months honorably in any branch of military, you get your full GI Bill that pays for all of your schools. So if you want to go to college and you're thinking, how am I going to pay for it? Go to the Army, because I'm only 21 and I'm about to have all my school paid for. In seriousness though, reach out, think about joining the military. You don't have to be successful. You can be successful without the military in every regard. But if anyone's out there thinking about it, I'm telling you, do it. It will be really great. Thank you guys for having me, and yeah.
now like to recognize the following servicemen and women individually. Veterans, or if you'd like to represent a veteran, you are more than welcome to stand if your name is called. 22 E7, Sergeant First Class, Larry Manship, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Jonathan McGill, United States Air Force. Sergeant Sean LaValle, 13 Bravo Field Artillery, United States Army. Sergeant LaValle served in both Afghanistan and Iraq. Adam A. Kapowkeritz, Private First Class, Army Anti-Tank Platoon, 423rd Infantry Regiment, 106th Infantry Division, and was a prisoner of war in the European theater for 4 months in Luxembourg, Germany, from December 9, 1943 until April 17, 1944. He's a Bronze Medal and 3 Bronze Star recipient. Staff Sergeant O.E. Duffer, United States Army and Korean War veteran. Don Buchanan, Navy Reserves. George Armstrong Sr., United States Navy. George Armstrong Jr., United States Navy. Ricky Bennett, United States Army. Carl Barber, the 3rd United States Army. Master Sergeant Richard Thacker, United States Air Force. Airman O.C. Duffer, United States Air Force and Vietnam veteran. World War II veteran, Robert B. Miller, Aviation Radio Man, 2nd Class. E5, 2nd Class Petty Officer Greg Anderson, served in both the United States Navy from 1980 to 1984 and the Coast Guard from 1989 to 1997. E6, System Owner Gary Creer, served as the United States Navy SEAL from 2006 to 2002. Senior Drill Sergeant and Senior Demolition Specialist Bill Robertson served in the United States Army from 1965 to 1968. Tech Sergeant David Morgan, United States Air Force, 4077. Larry Bowders, United States Army. Randall Bruceman, served from 1972 to 1975 in Vietnam. He was also a prisoner of war. Marine Security Guard, Sergeant Eric Rowe Range, United States Marine. The Marine Corps, stationed in Tunis, Tunisia. Sergeant First Class, Sean McClarty. Specialist Nicole Price. Matt Nicholson, ET2, United States Navy. Rebecca Nicholson, AT3, U.S. Navy. Jared Nicholson, 3rd IB Infantry, U.S. Army. Master Sergeant Jess Smith, United States Army, Air Corps. Sergeant Smith served in World War II in the Asiatic Pacific, New Guinea, from December 1939 to June 1945. E6, Staff Sergeant Gerald Brandenburg, United States Army Infantry. Sergeant Brandenburg served from March 1968 to March 1974 in Vietnam and received 3 Purple Hearts, 3 Bronze Stars, and the Army Commendation Medal with Valor. Sergeant William Brandt Linger, United States Army. Petty Officer, 2nd Class Mark Ray Smith, United States Navy. Commander Nicholas Petit, United States Navy. United States Air Force Staff Sergeant David Huff. Frederick Fitz Rowe, Navy, E7. Christopher Hinnant, Army, E8. Matthew Harmeyer, Army, E4. Sergeant Gavin Forrester, United States Marine Corps. Lance Corporal Eric Boucher, United States Marine Corps. Sergeant Art Branch, United States Marine Corps, World War II veteran. Lieutenant Colonel Michael McLean, Air Force. Staff Sergeant Douglas Ellington, United States Army. Sniper Paul Dalton, United States Army. U.S. Active Duty, Private 2, Dawson Maddox, Explosive Ordnance Disposal, Army. U.S. Active Duty Scott Private, First Class, Brayden Terrell, Airborne Cavalry Army. Staff Sergeant David L. Morgan, United States Air Force. Larry Bowders, United States Army. Airman E3 Sean Navy, United States Navy. Specialist Jackson, United States Army. Private 2 Goodpaster, United States Army. Rondell Puckett, United States Air Force. Master Sergeant Alan Harrington, United States Marine Corps. Ronald E. Kepler Jr., United States Navy. Petty Officer 3rd Class Joshua G. Campbell. His awards and medals include the National Defense Medal, Southwest Asia Combat Medal, Sea Service Deployment Medal, Expert Marksmanship Medal, Hawaii Liberation Medal, and Good Conduct Medal. Vietnam veteran Sergeant William Knott, United States Air Force. Master Sergeant Woody Brooker, United States Army. Specialist Michael Reno. Ira McKay, United States Army. Bill Vandenberg, United States National Guard. Petty Officer, 2nd Class, Josh Matthews, United States Navy. Corporal Carol W. Tuttle, 38th Division Field Artillery Gunner, World War II. Johnny D. Frazier joined the U.S. Army at 16 to serve in World War II as a medic and a scout. He was also in the Battle of Bulge. World War II Tech Sergeant Herbert L. Denny, United States Army, awarded Purple Heart. Anthony Webb, United States Army. Edward Caller, United States Army. Sergeant David Logsdon, United States Army. Sergeant Joseph Ledford, United States Army. Corporal Roger Bevelheimer, 2/5 Weapon Company, United States Marine Corps. Sergeant Jason Stinson, 1019th Engineer Detachment, United States Army, National Guard. George D. Young, Private 1st Class, United States Army. Sergeant Todd Brown, United States Army. Brandon Wallace, United States Air Force. Anthony Webb, United States Army. 11 Bravo, Andrew Johnson, E3, United States Army, National Guard. Specialist Force, Stephen Dole, United States Army, received the Purple Heart for his service in Vietnam. Senior Master Sergeant Stephen Holcomb, United States Air Force. Specialist Charles Zachary, KO, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Danielle Devers, 248 Air Traffic Control Squadron, Mississippi Air National Guard. Tommy Sullivan, United States Army. Jacob Weber, United States Army. Corporal Lloyd E. Sattler, Aviation, United States Marine Corps. Private 1st Class, Keegan Kiesling, United States Army Reserves. Private Eric Kiesling, United States Army. Specialist Michael Joe Delaney, United States Army. Sergeant Darrell L. Clark, United States Marine Corps, was a tank commander in Vietnam. EO3, John M. Hines III, United States Navy. E6, Weapons Specialist, Dwayne Workman, United States Navy. Charles Murphy, United States Army. Special Forces, 82nd Airborne Private Adrian Black, United States Army. Raymond Gorman, United States Army. Sergeant Bill Knott, United States Air Force. Staff Sergeant Paul Michael Helen, United States Army. Lance Corporal Joseph Shannon, Jr., United States Army Marine Corps. Corporal Miller Stover, U.S. Army 25th Division, Medical Battalion in the Korean War, ambulance driver. Currently serving 9 months in Kosovo over by Ukraine, Private Andrew Johnson, Army National Guard. Sergeant Joshua Bruner, United States Marine Corps. Private 1st Class, Tracy French, United States Army 4th Infantry Division. Sergeant Jack Radford, United States Air Force. Michael Bess, A1C, United States Air Force. Master Sergeant Richard Allen Thacker, United States Air Force. Chief Warrant Officer 3, Daniel West, United States Army. Herb West, E5, United States Army. Carl Eugene Newmaker, Specialist 4, Helicopter Repairman. Staff Sergeant Stephen Miller, United States Marine Corps, 2009 present. Glenn Alberson, United States Navy. Specialist Steel. Corporal Harlan Gamble, United States Army. Specialist Walter Gamble, United States Army. Private 1st Class, Alexander Palancos, United States Army. E5 Petty Officer, 2nd Class, Alan Earl Fouch, Navy. Sergeant Lee Kayward, United States Military Police, White House support to presidential helicopters and worldwide trade. National Defense Service Medal and Vietnam Service Medal, 1 star, scorekeeper and second class, Fred Fullhart, United States Navy. Petty Officer, second class, United States Navy, Seabees. Sergeant Adam Sly, United States Operation Iraqi Freedom. Sergeant Nicholas Mays, United States Marine Corps, veteran of foreign wars, served in Operation Enduring Freedom, Afghanistan. Petty Officer First Class, Chad Paskowitz, currently in the United States Navy, prior Sergeant in the United States Marine Corps. E6, Dwayne Workman, United States Navy, was a weapons specialist. He did 2 world cruises and was part of Desert Storm. Specialist 4, David Kovac, Morse code teletype interceptor, United States Army. Sergeant Terry Whitten, Vietnam veteran from 1970 to 1971, United States Army. Charles Murphy, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Joseph Ledford, United States Army. Platoon Sergeant Gary Hatzel, Artillery, United States Army. Sergeant Lauren R. Thomas, Air Force. Staff Sergeant Dan Ashton. Staff Sergeant Milford D. Smith, United States Marine Corps. Sergeant William Swanson, United States Marines. Sergeant Lana Swanson, United States Air Force. E6 Clint Fisher, United States Navy. Second Lieutenant Seth Chambers, United States Air Force. Radio Man Third Class, Gerald E. Van II, United States Navy. World War II veteran, Sergeant Charles L. Johnson, Jr. Staff Sergeant Daniel Hensley, United States Army, 8 years of service. Dan Hensley, United States Army, currently 21 years of active duty, 11 years reserve prior. Petty Officer, Second Class, Kate Wilboy, United States Navy. Staff Sergeant Sean Wilboy served 4 years in the United States Navy and the last 7 years with Air National Guard. Specialist, 4th Class, Kenny Bennett, United States Army. Specialist 4, Robert Haynes, United States Army. Gary McCutcheon, United States Air Force. We want to thank all of our veterans who are here today, and to all the members of the community who recognize the men and women who are service. Could I have all veterans please stand? Thank you again for your valuable service. Can we give them a big round of applause?
the Army formally adopted the tune for use at military funerals and memorial services. The 24 mournful notes comprising taps are played to commemorate the memory of members of all 5 branches of the armed forces: the Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force, and the Coast Guard. We stand in silence to participate in this moment to honor those who have died in service to our nation. Please rise for a moment of silence.
I think it'd be very fitting, Warriors, one more time, if we could honor all of our veterans with a handcuff of appreciation and thankfulness. You may be seated. I also want to share and say thank you to everyone that took time to be with us today at Wes-Del. It's a great honor to host this program, and I cannot say enough how thankful I am to all our sponsors, the band, our choirs, to our speakers today, our media team. Can we give them a hand clap of appreciation? That will conclude our program, but I want to make sure we dismiss correctly. But we're going to let all of our veterans and our parents go ahead and dismiss and leave today. I want to thank you so much for joining us. I want to let you guys be dismissed first before we start dismissing our elementary students. So thank you again. So elementary, just stay seated. Middle school, high school, stay seated.